And we are live. Welcome back, guys. Teamless Tuesday, round 16. Apologies for everyone who jumped in earlier. Yeah, a little bit of delay today. I suffered from the old Sydney drivers going 20 kilometers below the speed limit in the right lane itis. Today, I'm noticing it a lot, actually. Sydney drive is pretty crazy, but look, you don't log into this for my rants about driving, do you? Unless you guys want some special episodes about that. I am willing to launch a separate show. You can do it like AM radio style. Just go on rants about random daily BS like drivers. It's I'm copping a fair bit of flack in the comments, which look fair enough. Well, what the cat dragon. Little positivity, let's go. Noz, hello. 2 mins. Yeah, look, it was a bit more than that. Apologies, guys. Oops. Just say that to your wife too. She is well, the misso, she definitely doesn't love that I'm late sometimes. It's a bit more often than you'd like. Then yeah, carpool fantasy. Look, I did think about it. I did think about just jumping on the audio at least and chatting to you guys, but I thought, nah, I'll focus on driving. I won't do anything crazy. Look who decided to show up. And it's probably a good time to let you guys know too. The the news for this week. Exactly this. Munster wouldn't be driving in Sydney. That's because he's busy in my fantasy side. I have kept Cam Munster, and I'm looking at my trades again this week, and I'm probably going to keep him again. So Cam Munster, he's starting to look like a season keeper at the moment. It could be pretty special. Zeppelin, shout out to you, mate. Ranked 69. That is a nice rank there. And yep, yeah. Look, I'm just here, resetting expectations. Bald Eagle. I'll take Bald Eagle. I've been getting Bald Eagle a bit. I love that. And then I love that. I love that top on that guy too. Let's get into some team lists though, guys, and I'll jump onto more comments because some of you are sending some funny stuff through. But round 16, we'll jump into the first game here, and we've got a bit to talk about this week. So I haven't had a glance at these. I was on the road. I'm getting first reactions here. So if you do see any news nuggets and you want to drop them in the chat, let me know. Otherwise, let's tear in. Tigers, we got Buller at fullback. We go through to the back line with Taruva, Dewey, Toa, Skelton. Heath Mason stays at the 6th spot with Jerome Luai at 7. Very, very interesting. Very interesting. Okay. Terrell May at prop with Coruscant and Pole comes back in the front row. That really helps the Tigers a lot. And then we got Fainu, Seyfarth, 12. So they're back to pretty much full strength there. Talon De Silva, Sione Fainu, Latu Fainu, and Jack Bird. This is a pretty average team list when it comes to fantasy. So it's not great for fantasy. Like there's a few guys here that we were thinking about. You sort of cop a bit of a drop-off here. They cop a bit of a drop-off. So, first one, like Sione Fainu, a few of you guys looked at him. This definitely hurts him. He is now back into, lower minutes. Not the lowest minutes, because you look at this bench, there's not a lot of props. I mean, there's only really one. So maybe Jack Bird goes to lock and Twal goes to prop. But yeah, it's a pretty interesting bench. So a few of you guys mentioned this. Latu, still benched. Yeah, it's an interesting one. So Latu Fainu, let's talk about him because he had a pretty good game last time. Coming off the bench, played in the middle. Heath Mason played pretty much the full game there. So Latu was effective in that middle forward role. I don't know if he plays that role again. It's just a bit weird because they've got Jack Bird there as well. So for Latu Fainu, if you need a cash out, I'm still for Latu. I still like Latu. I still think he's a good shout, but you're not desperate to get him in, right? Like playing off the bench, as much as he did score well last time, I'm not desperate to brush him in. So I like Latu. I'm not getting Latu this week. It doesn't really work out for my team. I'm looking at a few different trades, but at the moment it's Kalamatangi to probably Eli Katoa. We'll talk about him when we get to the Storm. And I'm not sure about a second trade. If Sharp doesn't play, then I might need a second trade. How many trades do I have left, by the way? It's 7 this week, 7 trades. Looking really good for round 18, though. And I like burning through trades. Like this is actually more trades than I usually have at this point of the year. So, I like sort of hitting those trades early, grabbing the points. I moved up ranks quite a bit last week, too. So it was a pretty good one in terms of getting Jaden Campbell and James Tedesco into my side. So, yeah, Latu Fainu, still a buy, not a desperate buy. Like you're not tearing your team apart to get him, but he is still a good option to get this week. Then, Heath Mason, I'll shout this out too. 3 points last time. He is not a stellar option for fantasy right now. I think he's a good player, by the way. I think he's got a bit of dog about him. He throws himself at it. But in the front line, he sort of struggled a bit in defense. I think he's more of a fullback. So I think at some point he might get a shot somewhere in that sort of fullback role and be effective for fantasy. But in this role, I'm not super keen on him. Now, let's jump into these players here and work through. So the Tigers play round 18 and the Raiders play round 18 as well. So for the Tigers, you probably want to take a second look and think, all right, who do you actually want here? Now, Jerome Luai playing Origin. He'll play Origin 3 as well. That does guarantee Latu Finu a starting game, most likely in that game. So Luai is now off the radar. I would have been targeting Luai this week, 100%. But without that assurance, there's nothing we can do with Luai. So leave Luai off your radar. For the back line here, you could make a case for Stafford Toa as a pod. It's just the center spot is so strong, but we do need centers for round 18. So Stafford Toa, if you're really, really dire, you could think about that one. I'm personally not going to recommend it though. And then rolling through the list, the halves, Mason, no. Terrell May is probably the safest captain for this week. So if you're running Terrell May as your captain, you make your vice captain a player who plays in this game too. So one of you guys like Fogarty, Hudson Young, Horsburgh, Tarpanay, you probably have one Raiders player. So you just make them your vice captain, unless you're running a loophole with those guys. So for my team, I've got in the middle forward spot, Terrell May, Payne Haas, Adam Fanua-Blake, and Joey Tarpanay. And the way it works out, I'll be captaining Terrell May, and I'll be using Joey Tarpanay as a loophole guy this week. So start thinking about that too, because in that middle forward spot, you can have some loophole opportunities. But for the rest of the Tigers team, I'm not really too keen. Samuel Afinu is kind of value, but we haven't seen the turnaround from him yet to indicate that he is worth jumping onto. Seyfarth back into the back row where he scores better, but not quite a keeper. So, if you have him at this stage, you probably just hold on to him for a couple of weeks. But if you don't have Seyfarth, you're not targeting him. Twelve's the same. It's really pretty light there. The fact that Latu Finu does play round 18, though, and Luai plays Origin, that probably is another reason why you get him. So if you need a cash out, need a cheapie, at this stage of the readout, I think Latu Finu is the best one to jump onto. Now, there's a few people jumping in. Are you trading Kalamatangi? Yes, I'll be trading Kalamatangi. He's out for 3 to 5 weeks. It's a very difficult 3 to 5 weeks to cover as well. So I'll be moving off him. I think he probably does come back and play in the middle, and he probably does come back and dominate, but it's just such a long time, and he misses such important weeks. So you got to move off him. Stay off Eli Katoa. He's been my pod for weeks. Yeah, well, I'm an Eli Katoa guy, man. I had Eli Katoa, I think, the whole season last year, like rounds 1 to 27. So I was a big Katoa believer then, and I'm ready to get back on now. A big part, we'll talk about the Storm, but a big part of Jerome Hughes getting better and him being a buy also means that Eli Katoa is a buy too. Tommy Talau's joined the chat. Good to see you, mate. So he thought he'd pop in tonight since we're on the buy. He's replacing Saab. Consider me a buy. Yeah, round 18 is going to be tough. Maybe Tommy Talau can save us. No trades left. Yeah, shout out to you. Shout out to Azza as well. Down to 0. A few of you guys on 0 trades are in trouble. Yo, I was on the Eli Katoa. Yep, pod train. You're on that one, Noz. Starting 13 only counts. Yeah, so generally the rule is, guys, each side of State of Origin. So before and after State of Origin, it's only starting 13. So if Origin was this week or last week, basically, it's just 13 players. So you got Origin on Wednesday, which means it's going to be 13 players this week. No bench. We want the Turtles. The Turtles are coming back. Don't you worry. Turtles still going. Monty, 2-month holiday in Europe. He's having a good time. So he'll miss a bunch of the season here. Let me know in the comments, guys. Do you want me to bring on a second person for Team List Tuesday? And if so, let me know if there's anyone you think would be good. I've got a few people I can think of there, but do you like the solo show, or do you prefer us having someone else to bounce off? Or I guess what's your preference there? Just shoot me a message in the comments if you got a preference. Then Skelton, decent question. I think Skelton's hamstrings are too worrisome for me, so I'm going to say no to that one. Just too risky. Held Stafford Toa, great shout there. Dirty about the Turbo news. Yeah, we'll talk about this right now as well because they're not on the team list. But Tommy Trebojevic set to be named at center with, I think it would be Lehigh Hopewadi. No confirmation yet, but Lehigh Hopewadi going to fullback. Now, we'll find out about that in round 17. It makes Lehigh Hopewadi an interesting buy, or if it's Tolu Kola at fullback, he would be an interesting buy, but basically whoever goes to fullback is a great option at Manly. So Tommy Turbo at center. He scored well there before. I'm going to keep him for round 18. Maybe he gets dual position. I don't know. I bought him for 400K. You can't expect too much. He's playing all the major buy rounds, so that's sort of all I can ask for of Tommy Turbo at that price point. And then Keon on reserves. Interesting. We'll keep an eye on this news then, because look, there's no major rush. If you can cover it this week, you could hold on to Keon as well. But I don't expect he would play. I think it's very, very unlikely that he's going to play this week, unless we get some groundbreaking news. So we'll keep an eye out for that. But we've got a bit of time this week too. I think the first game is 8 p.m. on Friday, so we've got a bit of time. And then yeah, you guys get to see it before I do. That's going to be crazy. We'll have a look at it. We'll have a look at it when we get to it. But yeah. And then honest answer, do you reckon the Tigers have a chance of winning against the Raiders? Yeah, for sure. I mean, the Raiders are fantastic. They're a team who's been underrated all year, but I think they're properly rated now. Tigers could beat them. The Tigers have their full forward pack back. The Tigers have a bit of an advantage in the back line, I would say. So without Tamale in there, I think the back three for the Raiders is a bit smaller. I haven't seen Jed Stewart play too much, to be honest, but Xavier Savage, KO Weeks, they're not big truck it up sort of guys. So I think Tamale's impact there is going to be a bit underrated. And the Tigers have Taruva and Skelton coming out of the backfield. So they're going to get an advantage in the early set where I think they're going to put themselves in pretty good field position some of the time. And then you've got, the forward packs. Canberra obviously have a big advantage there. They've got a great forward pack, but I think the Tigers can compete. So I wouldn't mind the Tigers upset in this game. Now let's jump into the Raiders team here. And we'll talk about these guys here too. So KO Weeks is at fullback. We got Stewart, Tomoko, Chris Savage in the back line. Strange, who's been in form lately, and Fogarty coming back from that groin issue. You'd hope he's fully fit. Basically, with Fogarty there, you're gonna watch and see if he goal kicks. That's the big thing. If he goal kicks, he's all good. If he's not goal kicking, there's obviously still a bit of concern there. Then forward pack here, we got Josh Papali'i, Starling, Tarpanay, and then we got a Young, Hosking, and Horsburgh in the back row. Owen Paddy, Simi Sasangi, Smithies, and Mariota on the bench. So big Corey Horsburgh at lock again. That is a big boost. A big boost here for Corey Horsburgh. If you're a Horsburgh owner, ride the wave. Ride the wave. He's a better scorer at lock. He just gets a few more minutes, basically, is the key at lock there, and he's very effective in that role. Then for the rest of the forward pack here, if we go into Joey Tarpanay, Horsburgh to lock is not bad news for Joey Tarpanay either. As much as Tarpanay's minutes recently have been a bit reduced, I'm not freaking out about it. I'm a Tarpanay owner. He plays round 18. Go have a look at the players who play round 18 in the middle forward spot. Like, I'm just riding that Tarpanay wave. It's not ideal, the 44 minutes, 40, 45, like that kind of thing. But unfortunately, round 18 is pretty dire, so you just got to stick with him at this stage. So basically, if you have a Raiders player, you're going to keep them at this point. Then Hosking. So that's an interesting one because I sold Hosking fairly recently, a couple of weeks ago. If I had Hosking now, I would probably think about holding him. And the reasons for that are, one, the fixtures are pretty good. He's got Tigers this week. He's got a relatively good run of fixtures here. And the round 18 bye has gotten harder as well. So the fact that Koloamatangi is... Let's run under the assumption that Koloamatangi is out for 3 to 5 weeks, right? And if we get confirmation of something else later, we can swap. But if Koloamatangi is out for that period, he was the plan for a lot of people in the edge back row spot. A lot of people are now shorter in the forwards. And if you're short in the forwards and the options for round 18 just aren't good, you might as well just delay selling Hosking for a couple of weeks here. So I'm going to say pretty firmly that you're probably going to hold Hosking at this stage, and you're going to hold most players who play round 18 unless you are completely flush at the position. Starling is a fun option. If you need a hooker, I don't mind Starling at all. The fact that Coruscant has Talon Silver on the bench has eliminated him from contention, by the way. So if you're a Coruscant thinker, Coruscant ponderer, you're a Coruscant pod master, don't make that move anymore. I was thinking about recommending it this week, but if he's not going to play 80 minutes, which he won't with Talon Silver there, then I have very little interest in Coruscant. Starling, though, is somewhat interesting. For the bench here, bigger questions about Morgan Smithies as well. Just fire through any questions if you want, guys. But Via asked, is Smithies a sell now without lock? I keep Smithies. He comes on, plays 40 to 50 minutes, scores 40 to 50 points. He's a round 18 plug and play guy. Unless you have heaps of players for round 18, you're not going to be selling Morgan Smithies. So I think that's a pretty easy play. Do you have any recommendations for hookers? I mean, look, you could still go for Cook next week. I don't mind Cook. I still like Cook. He's one of my favorites. I'm personally waiting for Harry Grant in round 19 or round 20. I think Harry Grant late season could be a bit of a burst, and he's about 600K, so he's super, super cheap. But there's other options there. I mean, you're not going to get Robson during the origin period, but Starling, for example, if you need a round 18 guy, I don't like him. And Iolu from the Roosters if you want just pure round 18 cover. Paddy as a cash down question. He just doesn't get the minutes, so I'm going to say no to Paddy as a cash down. What if I'm short in the centers for round 18 and have one trade left? Well, if you have one trade left and you have 13 players to field this week, then you don't use that trade. That trade is purely reserved for when you are in a dire situation and you need to fill your roster that week. So JPL, it's boring for me to say it, but you're holding trades. Unless you guys DM me, you can pay $100 for extra trades. I'm kidding. That's a lie. You cannot buy extra trades. But imagine if you could. I would make a killing if I could sell trades. Oh, I have to find a way to do that. All these NRL fantasies, always wait till you're done. Yeah, that's cool. I mean, look, everyone's running their own race, man. Like, there's a lot of good ones. There's a lot of good people out there who love their fantasy like I do. So give them a bit of love as well if you follow someone else. I saw a few people too giving a few other pages a bit of crap recently about production quality and stuff. Like, don't compare anyone else to my stuff. Like, if they're just at the start, or if they're at a different stage, or they're focused on something else, that's their thing, man. Like, they're having a good time. They're sharing their opinions. It's good stuff. Especially if someone's putting out long form content, I really respect that, because it's tough to do at the start. And then you get used to it, and then you end up being 10 minutes late for your stream, like I was today. Yeah, never getting Grant again. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, if I could sell trades. And then, LM just sent 100. All right, well, we'll find a way to get you some extra trades then. Now, let's keep. Actually, yeah, I'll show this one too. You wouldn't make any money because you'd hold all the trades to yourself. I probably would. I'd try to win fantasy again. That'd be the goal. Now, let's go to the next game here. We got the Panthers and the Warriors, and there's been a lot of talk that Panthers Origin players will not back up. Now, oh yeah, this is indicative of that being true. So basically, no Origin players. Lindsay Smith's on the extended bench, but he's not really an Origin player. Even on the extended bench here too, though, there's no Origin players. So Panthers have stuck to their word. They're not flying back from Perth all the way to New Zealand. That's the big thing here. So up the Wires are going to get this done for sure. Now, as I say that, and I hear that, I have visions of the Warriors losing this game, because that would be classic Warriors, right? You win the tough games that you're not meant to win, and then you lose to the reserve grade Panthers side. That's classic Warriors duality. I am feeling a Warriors deep finals run this year, though. So if they can put the sword through Penrith here, then they'll be in a great position. Now, for the Warriors, we got the acronyms returning with a vengeance here. This is going to be fun. CNK at fullback. On the wing, we have DWZ, and the other wing, RTS. The centers are Pompey and MGT. MGT, that's a pretty sweet name. Then we got CHT in the halves with Lukey Metcalf, future Dally M. JFH in the front row with Egan and Niokore, and then Halasima, Laban, and Aaron Clark in the back row. TMM, Ford, Valmaga, and TSS on the bench. So other than the big run of acronyms here for the Warriors, MGT is kind of interesting. I worry about Ali Tower coming back, and I'm a big Ali Tower fan, but he's not on the extended bench here. So yeah, I don't know. I just feel like Ali Tower will come back into the team at some point and take this spot. The other thing is you got Kurt Capewell as well, who's the backup here too. So I really don't think you're jumping on MGT. But it is Kurt Capewell who won't come back from Origin in time to play in this game. So both teams are playing without their Origin players. Panthers cop a bit more of a loss than the Warriors do. But outside of that, I mean, if you're a few of you guys have asked this, is CNK a pod? We talked about CNK a few weeks ago, and my answer back then was, if you're a head-to-head team who is a bit low on cash, and it's your first year, it's your second year, and you're just not quite there in terms of the money generation side of things, and you can jump on a guy like CNK and have a bit of fun. So I'm not against it, but for a team that's sort of humming and you're in the top 1,000 or you're sort of really up there, you're probably not jumping on CNK unless you're tipping a really nuclear run, which does happen every now and then, but it's a big gamble. Now, this matchup is a good one for him, but he doesn't play round 18. I don't know, maybe for head-to-heads. It's a maybe for head-to-heads and no for overall coaches is sort of my answer here. Kolomatangi to Fish. Yeah, James Fisher-Harris. Let's talk about him. So Fisher-Harris is a pretty set and forget. I'm going to call it a 55 average guy for the rest of the year. And that's just based on the fact that, no Mitch Barnett now. He's the guy here, basically. He's going to have to play about 55 minutes a game. And he's pumping. Man, he's pumping. He's pumping that 55 average, I think. So I can see Fisher Harris pumping out huge numbers. He is at a discount as well, under 600K, but doesn't play round 18. So for my team, I've got a little middle forwards already. But if you're a team that's short a middle forward this week, for example, and you're kind of covered for round 18, then Fisher Harris is a cut price keeper. So again, if you're a bit of a bit cheaper, you're a bit poorer in terms of your salary cap there, then you could jump on a guy like Fisher Harris. But for most teams, probably not. In our year here, Captain Clark, Aaron Clark is an absolute machine. He's killing it. Warriors forwards to dominate. Wires have an easy run home. Yeah, look, a lot of Warriors fans around, eh? Yeah. So yeah, CNK could be a pod you could look at. Fisher Harris could be a pod. The reason these guys are pods, by the way, is because they don't play the round 18, right? That's the big thing. So people aren't going to target them. So if you do want to get on, you can. Beyond that, look, Luke Metcalf is a guy you can probably keep for a long time here. I would say that, based on the fact that we think the Warriors are going to win pretty well in this game, Metcalf should have a good outing, so it should be a good score for him. In the forward pack here, Wade Egan comes back from injury. They're giving him a bit of a rest most weeks, so Egan's sort of fallen off the keeper list, in my view. He is a bit cheaper, though, so it's not a rush. A few of you guys do have him in your team. You could sell him, but you don't have to. It's not a huge rush. This is an interesting question here from NRL enthusiast. So, what are you ranked about 400 right now? So he's doing super well here. But DWZ head-to-head cash down. He is cheap. He is very cheap. Could be a bit of a bow stock kind of effect there. So I don't mind the DWZ cash down at all. That DWZ, bow stock, Munro, like these guys who they're just pure try scorers and they don't have great base stats. You can't rely on them every week, but as a loophole, not bad. And if you're short a center wing this week, I'm not against this one at all. Now, it doesn't play round 18 as the downside here, but the upside is that he could go big in this game, could score a few tries. Yeah, and exactly right. We all should have held Metcalf. Yeah, I wish we did, man. Yeah, ranked 484 there. I boosted your rank up a bit to 400. But yeah, exactly right. DWZ would be a hard watch. He'd be a tough one to buy into your team for sure. Now, the rest of the team here, I mean, Laban's kind of interesting. The concern for Laban is that at some point near Corey could move back to the edge back row spot. I think it's quite unlikely, though. I think they're going to keep him in the starting prop spot. There's also the potential that Capewell comes back to the back row spot, which is his best position. And Leia Tower comes back into center, which I think will happen once his ankle gets right. So Laban's a risky one, doesn't cover buys, probably not worth jumping onto. If you're a Halasima owner, though, right now, you probably just hold on to him this week and see what happens here. Again, it's a good matchup, like we talked about. He should score a try in this one, so should be sweet. Now, for the Panthers here, we've got Laurie, Jenkins, Tungo, McLean, Alamotti in the back line, Blaze and Schneider in the halves, Leota, Kenny, Smith, Sorensen, Papali'i, Eisenhuth in the lock spot, Talau, Henry, Patea, and Garner on the bench. So, talk about the Panthers here. I'll just quickly hit it because it's a 1 week thing, right? This is a weird Penrith roster. The guys I think are going to explode, the guys I think will be respectable, and the guys I think probably aren't worth jumping onto. Now, in terms of explosion, I think Lindsay Smith has a massive game, and this takes very little fantasy analysis to understand. Like, I'm not claiming any credit when he scores a 70 because it's just obvious he's going to do it. But Lindsay Smith, when all the boys are out, he steps up, plays like 70 minutes to pump out 70 points. I think he'll do a lot of tackling in this game. Outside of that, I mean, Kenny has been moving into the lock spot a bit as well. He definitely will do that this week. So Kenny could have a big game as well if you're desperate for a cheap pod hooker. I'm not completely against Kenny, but he doesn't cover around 18, so it's not the most ideal option. Then Sorensen, Papali'i. I mean, I think Papali'i relies on some attacking stats, so I'm not thinking he'll have too many of those in this game. Eisenhuth is a guy who he will be available in a draft league off the waivers if you do want to jump onto him. Too expensive in Classic, but in a draft league, if you're desperate, you could jump on a guy like him. In the back line here, Dane Laurie will get through a mountain of work, so I expect him to pump out like a 40 in this game, even though I think the Panthers will lose by a bunch. And then the back line, Jenkins, Tungo, McLean, Alamotti. I think it's all going to be pretty dire here. Brad Schneider, again, if you're in a draft league and you want someone off the waivers, he could be good. But when I start talking about draft, you kind of know that I'm sort of saying like no one here is really worth buying. So I really wouldn't target any of these players for Classic, but there's just a few guys who are going to be good 1 week rentals this week. The back line here, I wouldn't trust. So we talked about Jenkins last week a bit, and I sort of talked about the fact that even though he has a low break even, I would be okay with selling him last week. And that was because in this game, I wouldn't want to start him. I wouldn't want to start him. Like they're just missing so many troops. Most of their guys they're missing are the guys who are creating tries for Jenkins as well. So I think Jenkins has a bit of a quieter game in this one. I pencil him in for like a 30 in this game. I think he will have a couple of nice plays because he's a solid player, but he's not going to score 3 tries in this game. So for the Panthers, I think it's really pretty avoidy. Whereas for the Warriors, it's more head-to-head focused or, going for those pods that you can jump onto. But really, these teams aren't teams I'm jumping into too aggressively. Now, a couple of questions here. Yeah, draft equals bad fantasy. It just means more temporary, right? So they're a 1-week rental. Draft is all about grabbing those 1-week rentals. Major price, I reckon he will. Yeah, so Jenkins should bump up in price. I agree with that. Is Cleary worth holding on to from Incognito? Yeah, I think if you've held on to him last week, you could hold on to him again. So Cleary will miss 2 of the next 3 games. He'll miss round 16. He'll play round 17. He'll miss round 18. Should play round 19. So if I had Cleary right now, I'd hold him for sure. Stafford Toa 80 plus. Could happen. Could happen. And yeah, if Jenkins keeps passing the ball. If McLean keeps passing the ball, Jenko will go 70 plus. Man, it could happen. Tommy Jenkins back-to-back 90s. Look, some of you are believers. I respect that. You got to make your calls, right? Like I'm just throwing you what I think will happen, but a good fantasy coach is right 51% of the time. A bad one's right 49% of the time, right? So we're wrong all the time. So I'll throw you what I think, but if you disagree, go against it. Like that's the whole point of the game, man. Then Butters asked, can Liam Henry please get a big minute role and a good buy schedule? That would be delightful. Man, if he was playing in this game, by the way, Liam Henry would be going huge for sure. Is Aaron Clark a 100% hold? Yeah, for sure, man. So keep Aaron Clark. He's the best hooker in fantasy. Even though his minutes have dropped off a bit recently, unless he starts scoring below 50, you keep him. I know he's probably a little bit overpriced now. He's probably bumped up a little bit too expensive, but you're keeping Aaron Clark in your team. Is Egan a buy? No. And Fisher Harris, I like him as a head-to-head pod, but more of a head-to-head sort of guy. If Liam Henry jumps into the starting team, I could see it more, but playing off the bench there, not super, super keen. They may do a swap, though. They might swap Liam Henry into the back row and Papali'i back onto the bench playing prop. Let's keep rolling through these teams, and we'll jump into the next game here. We've got the Dolphins and the Knights. So for the Finns and the Knights, let's go. So we've got the Hammer at fullback. We're running with Sarko, Averillo, Farmworth, Bostock. That Farmworth Bostock combo absolutely mean last week. Then we go to Nikorima and Isaiah Katoa in the halves. Forward pack here is Molo, Marshall King, Nichols. Then we got Finafuaki, Keely, Donahue at lock again. Interchange is Graham, Lemuelu, Stone, and Kerr. Now, the Dolphins are a pretty crazy one. Like the fact that they are putting up these massive performances is insane when you factor in the players they're missing. So let me run through these with you. You've got Dan Safidi out for a long time. You've got Tom Flegler out for bloody ages. You got Gilbert out for a long time, and you got Max Plath out now as well. Now they just keep on pumping. They're missing a starting representative forward pack worth of forwards there. Like it's absolutely insane that they're doing what they're doing. And even Marshall King's been out for quite a bit too. So I'm blown away by the Dolphins. Like I would say Christian Wolf is a serious contender for Coach of the Year, just on the back of what he's managed to get them doing. And if they can keep it going and they can make the finals and make a little bit of a push, Christian Wolf is Coach of the Year for sure in my books. Like the Dolphins, just so impressive. Now, if we start in the back line here, there's actually a lot of interesting options. The Finns would have been the strategy this year. So if I could go back to round 12, I would load up on more Dolphins players. Now, this year I had Herbie Farmworth. I captained him once. I unfortunately didn't captain him last week. He was my VC last week. I was close. If you guys were on the live stream on Thursday, I was really pondering it, but just didn't pull the trigger. So, sometimes you got to go with your gut and, stick with those calls. But if you captain Herbie Farmworth, which I know a few of you guys did, then bravo to you. You pumped out a massive score there. Now, Jack Bostock. There's going to be questions about him. And for Jack Bostock, what's his price now? Because he was 300K last week. He's probably bumped up to about 360. I'll just double check that number. So for Jackie Bostock, 400. Wow. Yeah, he's pumped up huge. Okay, so 400K is tricky. It's a bit hard to jump on him. I mean, he's got a low break even. Basically, if you're buying Bostock, you're betting on them to go on a tear. Now, let me read you out his fixtures. So he plays the Knights this week. He plays the Rabbitohs next week. And then he has a bye in round 18 when you need him. He plays the Sharks in round 19, the Cowboys in round 20, and then has another bye in round 21 and finishes the year with pretty tough fixtures here. Let me read these out. Warriors, hard. Roosters, pretty hard. Broncos, pretty hard. Manly, we don't know what that's going to be. Titans, easier matchup. And then Canberra, hard. So I just don't see him being worth buying this week. Like, he doesn't offer buy coverage. He doesn't have great fixtures there. You kind of want him to have a really nice run of fixtures so you could loophole him potentially if you're going to buy Bostock. Otherwise, I just think you're just sort of chasing last week's points. Now, you could make the bet. You could get on him and you could say, you know what? I think Herbie Farmworth and Jack Bostock are just going to kill it next to each other. That edge is unstoppable. They're both big, long guys who are hard to tackle, very quick, and they're just going to get it done. You can make that bet if you want to make that bet. I'm not going to stop you from doing it. I'm just more saying that the numbers and the information is not on your side when it comes to buying back Jack Bostock. Now, if you don't have Herbie Farmworth, a few people have asked me about this. I would say yes to buying Herbie Farmworth. I think as much as he scored that 100 last week, we've been talking about it for a while. He's going to have these breakout games, and that is part of his stat profile. He's not going below 45 ever, basically, either. So, yeah, Herbie Farmworth is the keeper center this year. Absolutely monstrous keeper center. Doesn't rely on easy matchups necessarily either. Like, he gets his work done. If anything, in a tougher matchup, he actually probably does a bit more work. So Herbie Farmworth is a great option to bring into your team. I think it's too late to bring in a guy like Jermaine Asako. He's one that we floated. So we floated him and Turbo as the two really fun, sort of cheaper options at that 400K mark back in round 12. I went with Turbo. I wish I had gone with Asako because Asako's been unstoppable. But I will say the round 18 coverage is the big thing that tipped me over the edge with Turbo. And I will use Turbo in round 18. So can't regret it too much. But Asako's been really hot recently. Hammer back out from Origin. No interest here. Cody Nikorima. He's in some form for fantasy, but just not a guy you want to bring into your side, I don't think. And then Isaiah Katoa, pretty pricey at this stage. Very expensive. So basically, if you're buying him, you're saying he's a bona fide gun. I'm keeping him for the rest of the year. Locked in, 60 average. Let's go. I don't mind it. I don't mind it at all. Personally, I'm probably not jumping on Katoa myself, but if you want to jump on Katoa now, you can. If you already have Katoa, which a lot of you guys do, some of you captained him last week too, then you're riding a great wave here. Just stick with it. You absolutely nailed that pick. Now, forward pack. There is space in this forward pack for minutes. So we talked about Kurt Donahue last week as an interesting option at the hooker spot. He was even better than expected. Grabbed a try in that game. And look, they dominated, right? They scored 58 points. So it's not going to be like that every week. The Cowboys just did not turn up in that game at all. But Donahue was good. And the fact that they're winning, the fact that they're playing well, like we talk about this a lot in fantasy, that's going to, secure his role. That's going to keep him playing in that role. And they don't mind a bit of an undersized, more creative lock at the Dolphins anyway. Like they like Max Plath, who was viewed as undersized before he, played last year. And they're running Donahue in that Max Plath kind of role, which we've seen be super effective. Now, because of all the injuries, there's not any rotation issues either. So you go Harrison Graham, he's a hooker, right? Then Lemuelu, he rotates with Oren Keeley. Ray Stone and Josh Kerr are coming into the front row because Francis Molo and Mark Nichols aren't big minute front rowers. They're sort of on the later end of their careers. So, Kurt Donahue could pump out 60 minutes a game and be super effective. So I'm actually not against him as a potential buy option. If you do want to get someone who's a backup half and hooker, and you need to cover that half or hooker spot this week, I think it's not even crazy. But last week would have been the best time to do it. Now, let's just quickly hit a few of these questions. But look, I sort of hammered most of the Dolphins points there. Dolphins by 80. You could make that case. You could make that case for sure. I mean, the Knights are back, and they've got Big Dom Young back as well. That's interesting. So we'll talk about the Knights in a sec here too. But Dom Young back it's going to be good because Brad and Best is back as well. Like, you look at this back line, it should be good for Newcastle. So we'll get into them in a sec. And even if I don't need a wing fullback, would it be worth jumping on Bostock for cash? No, not at all. He'll make some cash. You'd kind of need him to pump out 50 plus this week to justify this trade. And he's just not reliable in doing that. So if you want to do it, you can. If you really think you need the cash, you can do it. If you've got a lot of trades, like 10 plus trades, you could do it. But I personally don't think it's worth chasing the points like that. And Captain Herbie over May for this week, I'm not against it. Could be a good shout. If you want to go Herbie, you can. Herbie has that 100 plus in him every now and then as well. few of you guys are looking at that move too. Loza, how's it going? Fins up. Loza pumped out, what was it, 870 last week? Like some ridiculous score for Loza. I remember he joined the private group and he was ranked like 80,000 or something like that. He's now I think, into about 5,000. So, yeah, just absolutely flying up the ranks, man, which is awesome to see. Fins by 36 at least. Got to keep the streak going. Yeah, a lot of Fins fans coming through. Katoa, so impressive in real life as well. In real life too. So Katoa's a killer, man. Like he's his third year and he's just been absolutely flying. Now, Katoa, yeah, definitely a Dally M contender along with Metcalf there as well. There's a few Dally M options, and basically all the Dally M options are guys that you'd love to see win it because they're interesting. And Nos comes in, bit of controversy. Dolphins fans are fake. I always love when there's a bit of beef in the comments, eh? Like that's pretty juicy. Then Aussie, how's it going, mate? Aaron Clark, captain over May. With the minutes, I'm not loving Aaron Clark as captain, but he may grab some attacking stats against a weakened Panthers side. And the Cowboys, yeah, they're in trouble. Now let's go into this Knights team list here. And for the Knights, we've got Ponga, Young, Gagai, Best, Marzu in the back line. That is a delightful back line, by the way, to look at. Like you look at that and you just think, you know what? They should be scoring 30 points a game. You then go to Fletcher Sharp and Jack Cogger in the halves. So, okay. I thought maybe Hastings might keep his halfback spot. I thought he was pretty good last week, but apparently not. Then we got the forward pack. Frizzell comes back at prop. Jaden Brayley keeps the hooker spot. Okay, this is interesting. Croker at 10. Then we go to Lucas, Pierce Paul, Crossland at lock. Interchange is Jones, Kant, McEwen, and Salesa Laumona. Now, extended bench. Do we have anyone interesting for the Knights here? Hastings, yeah, Schiller, Fletcher Hunt, McCarthy. Yeah, you expected those guys to make way for. They brought some pretty good guys in this week. So for Newcastle, I would say it's hard to say. It's hard to say with any sort of confidence. But I look at this team list and I feel like they should be better in attack this week. I'm letting it sit so I can sort of hear myself say it and think, do I really believe it? They should be better. They should be better. Like Dom Young, Gagai, Best, Marzu is so much strike. Fletcher Sharp, this should open things up for him a bit too. Callum Ponga. I wouldn't be surprised. I think the Dom Young addition, the re-addition of Bradman Best, the forward pack coming back as well. Frizzell, we'll get Jacob Safidi back soon too. I think the Knights could be on for a bit of a surge here. And yeah, it's tough to predict because they haven't looked good. I'm going to say it though. In my view, I think they're going to be on for a bit of a surge. I think they'll get into this game here and they'll be very, very competitive. And I think there could be an upset on here, which is unpopular. I know because there's a lot of Dolphins fans in the comments right now, but I think this could be a bounce back game for Newcastle. Like you just look at this team, look at that back line, and you tell me that back line can't create points. Like they should be scoring easily. All Cogger needs to do, it's really simple. Bit of early ball. Gagai, Best, bit of early ball. Give him a chance. Even Dylan Lucas, we've been seeing him. He gets simple passes from the halves, beats a man, breaks through. They've got a lot of talent in these edges, so they should be really explosive this week. I'm thinking Newcastle bounce back. Now, what does that mean for fantasy? It probably means that if you're a Sharp owner, you start Sharp with a lot of confidence this week, as long as he's fully fit, as long as he's playing, right? But if he's playing, I think Sharp goes big this week. Callum Ponga, if he comes through Origin unscathed, I think there's going to be some attacking stats on offer for him in the coming weeks, and I will consider Ponga a potential option to jump to in round 19, round 20, depending on what I see from him in Origin, full fitness, that sort of thing. But I think this may be a year where we see a late surge from Ponga, and he's a bit of a league winner down the stretch because I just think this backline is lethal. Maybe I'm overrating them a bit, but I think they've brought in some really good options here. Best and Young are just so much strike here. And then for the rest of it, I mean, Brad and Best could be a little bit of a pod later on, but the hamstring is worrisome. Gagai, it's a bit too late now. Like they've played their last major buy round. They don't play round 18. So we're not buying too many of these guys right now. In the forward pack here, Jaden Brayley is a very cheap option at hooker with no job security at all. Like none at all. So, he's leaving the club at the end of the year. Crossland is their future hooker. They haven't even got Matt Arthur on the bench here either. So they're not blooding another hooker here. It's just Jaden Brayley. Now, Bradman Best coming back from hamstring. Brady Jones to the bench. I just worry a bit because my big concern here is if we see Jacob Safidi come back in the next couple of weeks, or Adam Elliott come back, or one of these other guys, Crossland moves back into hooker and Brayley goes back to irrelevance. So Brayley is a very risky option. I'll do some research on the return dates for the guys, and I'll make a prediction for buy, hold, sell when that comes out. But Brayley, I'm sort of thinking it might be a bit too risky to jump onto him. Dylan Lucas, he's a killer, stone cold killer. We love him, keeper. Don't ever sell him. If you don't have him, he's a good buy option. And Kai Pierce-Paul, he's in my back row there. I'm keeping him for the duration, I reckon. I think he'll be in my team for the rest of the year. Let's quickly see. Any questions here on the Knights? Yeah, poor Cowboys. AOB, yeah, look, AOB is copping a bit of heat right now, and he makes some questionable choices, but I think they have a chance to bounce back here. Hell, Jacob Safidi still isn't back. Yeah, he was definitely a sell. Dan Gagai, a sneaky pod, more for head-to-head now than overall, so he's made a bit of cash now, unfortunately for you. It's a bit late, I would say. Eternal struggle of deciding whether to sell Ponga for the 14th week. Look, if you held him this long, you might as well stick with him as long as he doesn't get hurt. Reckon Pong could be a buy soon. Exactly what I was talking about there. They have a great backline, but cannot show it. Coaching is bad on offense, so it's predictable. Completely agree. They're not getting a lot of value out of these guys at all, and it should be pretty simple. It should be a pretty simple game plan because every single player in their sort of edge 3 or 4 players there will beat a one-on-one tackle. Like they're just stacked with guys who cannot be tackled one-on-one. So it's just like create a bit of isolation. It's pretty straightforward, but yeah, Newcastle are really struggling with it. And who do I play in my halves? Munster, Fogarty, or Savala? I would say probably Fogarty is the safest one here, so I'd go Fogarty. And then, yeah, swear to God, after all this time, I've held Ponga and trade him this round. If he starts going crazy, I think you hold him then. Crossland to buy at lock is... If he plays those big minutes at lock, then he's going to score fantasy points. I just don't think he's a good enough lock to justify the minutes that he's playing there. I think when they get guys back, he'll feel the minutes squeeze pretty quickly. So I see him as less likely to keep it. Whereas Jaden Brayley, as long as he's in the hooker spot, will be effective. So I'm going to say no to Crossland, but I'll have a look into it for buy, hold, sell. Thoughts on Young, expecting increase in PPM. I did look into Young and his numbers at Newcastle. And even when we had that massive year at Newcastle, he averaged like 40, I think it was. He had his biggest year at the Roosters. So Young's going to have a couple of huge games and some absolute shockers. And I think moving from the Roosters to the Knights is not an upgrade that would warrant you jumping on and buying him. So I'm going to say no to Hudson Young. I don't mind this trade, Jenko to Ponga. If you think Ponga is going to be a keeper, I'm not buying Ponga this week, but I've got my eye on him, and I do think there is a chance that he bounces back. See, a lot of you guys are Ponga holders. I think you hold for another week, which I know is rough to hear. Longy, Donahue or Tallis Duncan. Different positions, man. Completely different positions. Depends what your team needs. I think Tallis Duncan is safer. I think Donahue has a bit more upside there, especially at the positions that he plays, and especially at hooker in particular. Then we've got Ponga just staying in Perth after Origin. Yeah, that's the expectation that he will stay in Perth. Is Farmworth popping off? Yeah, he's going huge for sure. How many trades we get in round 20? It's 8 more trades, is my understanding there. So you get a bunch more trades. Try not to burn them all at once. Hubner to who? Got 670K. Don't have to sell Hubner just yet, but if you were going to sell him, depends what position you're on. I mean, Jerome Hughes is a good option. You're a bit short of Eli Qatar. But yeah, buy, hold, sell. I'll go through a bunch of options for you guys. And then Fiketti, a buy. Well, that try was nice from Fiketti, but I don't really see him as a great option. The minutes just aren't good enough, and the usual PPM isn't there either. So that's Knights and the Dolphins. Let's keep tearing through. So Saturday footy, 7:35 p.m. Last game of Saturday, then we'll go to Sunday. But for this game here, we've got the Rabbitohs v the Storm. Now, the Bunnies have named Latrell, but they are missing quite a few players. So Latrell comes in. Jai Gray is out for a bit of a stint. I think it was a broken thumb for Jai Gray. And then we got Johnston, Whiten, Tass, Munro in the back line here. Dodd and Humphreys in the halves. And then we go to Arrow, Havili, Moale, Aitken, Duncan, Hubner. So no Kolomatangi. Bit of a boost for Hubner. If you're a Hubner owner, you might as well give him a shot this week. And then we got Gray, Kepi, LeBlanc, and Totola. Very low minute, middle forward focused bench here. So Gray and LeBlanc are no guarantee at minutes here. And then Kepi and Totola, they're front row minutes sort of guys. So this is a pretty, it's not dire, but it's a bit weaker. Havili as well. I know he's under a bit of an injury cloud too. So South Sydney could be in real trouble in this game. And if Latrell doesn't back up, I don't know who they play at fullback. Like maybe Johnston. They don't have Jai Gray anymore. He's out for a bit. Is it Munro? It's definitely not Whiten these days. Maybe back in the day. But they're in a bit of trouble at the fullback spot if Latrell doesn't back up. Because they've got, Keon on the bench, Cody Walker, Campbell Graham. Surely he's back soon. So they're in a bit of trouble here, South Sydney. So I wouldn't be starting too many South players who rely on attacking stats if I was you guys. Now, that's basically going to mean the full 1-7 here. If Latrell doesn't back up, Humphreys should be solid for fantasy. Then forward pack here, Havili under that cloud. He's not a guy to target. Arrow could get a boost with Koloamatangi out potentially, but just not enough to justify him. Ewan Aitken is now pretty expensive, so he's still a good option, but not a must-have anymore at this price. Tallis Duncan, still a great option. Still a great option, yeah, for sure. Bit more expensive now. I still see him as like I had him as a 43, 44 before. I'll bump that up to a 45, 46 based on recent form. I still think he's a below 50 average back rower, but he's he's kind of in that Britton Nakora sort of mold in terms of his fantasy production. So he does need a few attacking plays to be effective. And I don't think there's going to be many attacking plays on offer here. So if you bring Duncan in, I'd pencil him in for like a 37 this week. I don't know where that number came from. I've got a vibe here. I think there won't be much attack on offer for South Sydney. Now, if you're a Hubner owner, he'll get through work. I would keep him this week personally. Probably wouldn't start him. I think you have better options, but without Koloamatangi, he should be effective in the lock spot, especially with the bench they've named. And then really for South Sydney, it's tough because they play round 18, so you want to like them, but we just don't. Now, do you sell Koloamatangi with the injury? Potentially. So I'm selling him most likely. He's on the extended bench, which is a bit bizarre. I wonder if there's any news that's going to come out that he's actually not as bad as originally thought. He'll be back sooner. It makes me worried. So we've got a few days here to figure this out. I'm going to be looking very closely for any reason to hold him. If there is indication that he'll be back in round 18, I'll tell you guys. It'll be on the Instagram story. It'll be in the Discord as well. Just there hasn't been any indication until this team list that he was going to be back. So yeah, because if he is coming back in less than 3 weeks, he plays round 18, then he's one of the best options to have in round 18. So you probably want to hold him at that stage. So we need to wait for more information, guys. Same question here. Keon, still a chance to be in the lineup. Yeah, it's tricky. Risky holding Kolo, then get Haas in round 21. Not against that move. Smithies to Duncan. Good to see him. No, I don't think so. Maybe. If you stack with trades, you could do it, but it's a bit sideways, especially this week. I know that's weird to say, but they both play round 18. I don't love it. Then Jazz for Crossland. Jazz appears to have an injured arm and can come off the bench. Crossland has a great work rate given the Knights are trying to boost their attack. Crossland will get 80 minutes. Jazz plays round 18. So that's the big thing there. If you need a hooker for round 18, I would say don't do it. Have no more minutes with Colo out. Exactly right. Yeah, a lot of people mentioned that, Colo. Rabbits forwards are so bad, thinking Storm go 30 plus. I think the Storm are on for an absolute tear, by the way. Absolute tear. So the Storm should absolutely kill it. They'll be off and racing. Over this next period, by the way, it's great fixtures for the Storm. So I'm looking to stack up my team with a couple of Storm players. Good to see you, Jamie. So many athletes in here. Then Longy is Jed Stewart a buy. You could. Job security isn't fantastic, but he is a decent option. Then we'll keep rolling through. Munro would play fullback. Yeah, could be a shout. If Munro plays fullback, that could be interesting. And then, got Jamie around. Longy, I've held Munster. Should I sell the Hughes for this matchup? I'm not going to do it myself. Let's see how Origin goes. Right? Let's see how Origin goes. If Munster comes through unscathed, you could do it. I just think Munster has big potential across this stretch as well, and could potentially be a keeper down the stretch because they have really good fixtures coming up, and they're still battling for that first place spot. So I think Munster could go for a run. And then, it's good to see Jamie in the house. Jamie and I have been battling. Jamie, I don't know if you keep track of it as well, but in the podcaster league, I feel like we've been back and forth, swapping who's ahead of the other one. You're the main one I watch because I know we're two of the bigger guys on YouTube. But I think I just got ahead of you this week, but I think you were ahead last week. So keen to see how that battle ends up, man. Then selling Riley Smith for Duncan. A good move. No, keep Riley Smith, man. Riley Smith is solid. If Riley Smith goes back to 80 minutes, which is quite likely as well, because Josh Papali'i is now in the starting side for Parramatta, I think. I haven't seen the Para team list yet. Then you could say Riley Smith is a keeper level hooker at this stage. Now, got any other big questions? I've just got to scroll past. Sorry, guys, if I do miss your question there. Hughes a buy. Hughes is definitely a buy, guys. I'm just going to switch the lights back on, by the way. But Hughes is a great option. So if you want Jerome Hughes, I'm just yelling now. Does the sound come through when I'm yelling and walking around? If you want Jerome Hughes, he's a cracking option. He should be a killer down the stretch. So I've been eyeing him off for a long time. I actually wish he didn't score that 80-plus game, because he was it was either him or Luai this week. If he didn't have that big game, I reckon he would have been a bit more under the radar. But there are trades floating around, questions of like Nico Hines to Jerome Hughes. I'm presented with that option myself, and I don't love it. I actually think Nico Hines and Jerome Hughes will be relatively similar down the stretch. Now, Nico's in pretty average form. Jerome Hughes is in a Storm side that I think is going to fire, so that's the booster for Hughes. But I just think I think there's some sideways trades coming through too. Then Frosty, I need to get in the podcast league so I can be first. I mean, right now, top of the podcast league, I think is Jay-Z, who's sitting in, I think he's 18th overall. So he's in that number one spot. I think I'm fifth. I think it's about 35 podcasters in the league. So there's a couple that are absolutely flying. And Longy and Jamie live. Yeah, we should do a collab. If Jamie's still here, hit me up, man. We'll do it. We'll do a collab live. That'd be sweet. Now, break the internet. Yeah, the merger. Yeah, we'll definitely get a live going. Jamie and I have chatted a bunch offline as well too, so we'd be pretty smooth. Now let's jump into the Storm. So for the Storm here, we got Paps at fullback, Anderson, Howarth, Meaney, Coates in the back line. Go through to Munster and Hughes in the halves. Then forward pack here, Atoa Kamanu, Grant, King, running through to the back row, Blore, Katoa, Loyero. Then Wishart, Asofa Solomona, Kamitha Mitha, and Garlic. Now, one that burns me every time I see his name is bloody Sofa Solomona. This guy here, I was looking at him. I remember earlier in the year, he was really cheap and he was playing dodgy minutes and he was in and out. I just thought, at some point that'd be nice. He came out and he had some big games starting at lock, and we missed the boat. He's too expensive now, but he's one of those ones where it just snuck through. He had those big games and weeks I couldn't get him, and I really liked the idea of him as an option, but couldn't get it. But what I will say is for the Storm, you're wanting to get a piece of this pie, right? They play round 18. They basically have no buys coming up. They are a lethal attacking machine. They're coming back to full strength, and you can really take a shot at a pod out of this Storm team. And some of them are at really good prices. So first one, Pappenhausen, not a discount, but goal kicking. He's locked in that goal kicking role. He is a lethal footy player. Scored a 57 without any attacking stats in that last game out as well. So last game out, last day out, actually mix the words, but Pappenhausen's a killer. So if you want to wing fullback right now, I'm not against Paps. I think Paps could have some absolutely nuclear games. He has a 20 in him as well. If he scores 20 for you, you can't freak out. You just got to stick with him. You got to wait for the 100. So I'm a big fan of Pappenhausen down the stretch. In the back line here, I'm not the biggest Anderson guy or Coates. I think they're a bit too hit and miss. Meaney without the goal kicking, I don't love either. But Jack Howarth, he's going to be in the 300s. So he'll be at a pretty nice price. So when we look at Jack Howarth here, look, I know. A few of you guys were burned at the start of the year. You jumped on Howarth. Yeah, and it frustrated you. He's a never again prospect. But maybe after this game when he's 380K, 390K, you could think about it, right? Because the back line for round 18 is pretty dire. And he's one of those guys, he's the same price there as Bostock. I think Howarth could have some absolutely massive games down the stretch. As long as he stays fit, as long as the Storm keep firing. Because right now his average it's pretty low. I think it's around that 30 mark. But I'm pretty sure it's on the back of one try this year. So I think we're going to see more tries coming his way. And he's a big galloping guy, hard to stop. Howarth is a serious pod you could tear into. Now in the halves here, Cam Munster sitting in my side. I'm going to stick with him. I think as long as he doesn't get hurt in Origin, that's basically my marker here. Now he's captain of the Queensland side, which worries me a little bit. But I think Munster is a guy who's going to have some massive games. If you look at Munster, we talk about the 100-meter rule all the time. Munster is crushing the 100-meter rule. So last game out, he had 180 meters run. didn't have any attacking stats, scored 50. You throw in a few attacking stats, and we got some 70, 80-point games, which he has had recently as well. So as long as he's pumping out 100 meters, I'm keeping Cam Munster. That's the big thing I was looking for, and now I've got it. I'm not letting go. Jerome Hughes, good price. Get him right now. If you're gonna get Jerome Hughes, you have to get him this week. Like it's no wait and see, watch again, blah blah blah. He's gonna bump up in cash way too much this week. He's got a great matchup this week. You want to start him this round. So Jerome Hughes he's not a must-have by any means, because he could still go back to those lower scores, could still re-trigger that shoulder issue. That was the big thing holding him back, the shoulder. But you can't write him off. Like we saw what he did last year. He absolutely carried some teams up the ladder. I had Jerome Hughes very early last year and got some great scores out of him. He's very, very enticing. He's a good bet to make. So I like Jerome Hughes. There is risk to it, but that's why he's so cheap, right? You either get a guy at a discount or you pay full price and you get less risk. So Jerome Hughes is your risk option. You can take that. You can go get Isaiah Katoa if you don't want any risk, but you're going to have to pay $300K more. Now, forward pack here. Am I targeting any of this? It's really Harry Grant post-Origin. I'm a big fan of him still. I know. I fall for the same trap over and over again, but I think Harry Grant can bounce back post-Origin. And Eli Katoa, my boy from last year. I had him round 1 last year, all the way through. I think I held him through to round 27 from memory. So he's my boy. I love Eli Katoa. I love his attacking stats. And when I talk about the Storm clicking and talk about Jerome Hughes being a force, all that means is tries on tries on tries for Eli Katoa, who is just going to go on a tear. So as long as he can stay fit, he did have a couple of injury issues earlier in the year. He can stay fit, look good. He's a great option, plays around 18, and he's almost certainly coming into my team. Now, the one thing that does throw this out a little bit is Dante just mentioned, and Dante's usually pretty good with mail too. So I'll take this one seriously. News from South Page: Kaloa didn't need surgery and is a day-to-day proposition. Kaloa suddenly becomes a hold if that's true. Now, obviously, I'm not saying Dante's lying, but sometimes the news reports come out and they're fake and all that sort of thing, right? So you've got to be ready for that kind of thing. But if Kaloa is a day-to-day proposition, if Kaloa is playing round 18, that's basically my barometer on this, right? If he misses 2 games or less, then he is a hold for all money, because he's a keeper, right? And he's still he's 800K, so he's not a discount, but he's still not at a crazy price. So yeah, with Kaloa, no surgery, day-to-day. If this becomes true, he will be a hold. Now, we will address Kaloa at the start of buy, hold, sell. Very first thing we talk about on buy, hold, sell is going to be Kaloa. What's the news there? What do we have so far? And what are we doing with him? I know that's the big thing everyone wants to know. So, yeah, fair shout. And Frosty mentions Jay-Z. Beat me all the time. I'll just go through some questions, guys, by the way, too, for the Storm. Yeah, even when you came 11th, I think he was 4th place last year. So, juicy. Yeah, people want the collab live. Let's go. Kaloa might be the hold. Buying Hughes or Campbell. And Campbell's a great option all the time. Hughes is the option for this week. So, Campbell's a better scorer, but Hughes is such value. Savard to Hughes, you could do this. If you are short on round 17 numbers and you have too many Roosters, then definitely do this. Otherwise, I'd probably look for another option. Fogs to Hughes and Jazz to Katoa. I don't mind this as long as you're covered for round 18 hooker. Any Storm backline, a good pod. Big one's Howarth. You go to Pappenhausen or the halves, but they're the 3 I would look at there. Captaining Paps. Yeah, this is juicy. I mean, look, it's risky. I'm not going to do it. I don't like, these kinds of captains like Pappenhausen. A bit too high risk, high reward for me. But if you want to take a gamble, if you do it and it goes well, send me a screenshot. I'll put it on the story for sure. Then should I play Hughes or Reynolds this week? Ooh. I mean, could you loophole? You could probably loophole. If you have Cleary or, one of those other guys, try to loophole if you can. If you can't loophole, then I reckon Hughes. Hughes goes big. Let's just see. Hosking to Hughes. I'm not against it as long as you have numbers for round 18. That's the big thing. So why Hughes scoring good all of a sudden? What's different now? Those other rounds he did so bad. Good question here from Noz. So for Jerome Hughes, he was carrying a shoulder issue. Big shoulder injury there. You could see him every time he went down wincing with that shoulder. He's had a couple of bye rounds to rest it. Seems to just have gotten over it, basically. So I think he's fully fit now, which he wasn't before. That's the big thing there for Jerome Hughes. So if he stays fit, he's going to be good. And the other thing is the Storm fixtures coming up are really good too. So I just think that full fitness is the main thing. If you go through the stats as well, usually the indicator that you can look for with a guy if they're a running half like Hughes, or they're a center or a winger, fullback, that kind of thing, what you're looking for is the run meters average and the tackle breaks average. So I'll share these on the pod. If you guys don't want to look into this stuff, you don't have to. I can share it. But if you are wanting to get more advanced with your fantasy, you just go like footy statistics and you have a look at last year's numbers. So Jerome Hughes was 125 meters, and from memory, I think it was 5 tackle breaks average, something like that. Maybe a few less tackle breaks, but it was a consistent 125 meters, 5 tackle breaks. So that's what we were looking for Jerome Hughes when he's in form. Earlier this year, he was running up about 75 meters and 0 to 1 tackle breaks. So you could see him not fighting through contact. We're seeing the same thing with Turbo, by the way, as well. So Turbo's meters are up, but the tackle breaks are way down, which indicates that he's not really fighting through contact the way he used to. Nico Hines is in the same boat, just not running the ball with that same fervor as he did before his injury last year. So that's what we're looking for here. And with Jerome Hughes, we saw that bounce back in that last game before the major bye round. And the assumption is that will continue, right? It's a risk, but it's an assumption that I'm pretty happy to make. Wait, didn't yep. Fair shout. By the way, guys, if you don't want Hughes, you don't have to. You don't have to get Hughes, but he's a good option. Good option. Happiest man alive in his NRL photo. Yeah, it's pretty sweet. Pretty sweet shot for him. I think he seems like a happy guy, doesn't he? Seems like a happy guy. Ewan Aitken to start. Yeah, you could start Ewan Aitken for sure. He's a good option there. And then Colo and Hubner to Katoa and Hughes. These are okay trades. I mean, you're trading 2 guys who are playing round 18. That's my concern there. Let's keep tearing through teams here, because the Koloamatangi potentially playing news is just something you need to keep an eye on, guys. Like I'll give you an answer on buy, hold, sell, but it sounds like he's not going to be out for too long. He's going to be a guy to hold. Now, let's keep running through. We got the Sunday footy, and then I'll just review a few trade questions too. But for Sunday footy, we're looking at Reece Walsh at fullback. We've got Karapani, Staggs, Shibasaki, Arthurs in the back line. We've got Ezra Mam, Adam Reynolds in the halves. So Karapani keeps a spot. Cobbo is out. Very interesting little cheapie there. Then forward pack here, Jensen, Pakes, Haas in the front row. Pia Kura keeps his spot. It's not crazy. It's not crazy to get on Pia Kura. Just to put it out there. And then Ricky and Carrigan in the back row. Interchange is Walters, Hetherington, Willison, and Jezewski returns. And that kind of ruined my Pia Kura point there. That's kind of killed it, actually. All right, well, for the Broncos here, there's a lot to talk about. In fact, just shoot me your Broncos questions, guys, because I think we're thinking about the same stuff. So VR asked the question, Walsh, is he a buy? And is he a buy if in need of a fullback? I think he's a pretty fun option. And look, Walsh he's not an elite fantasy scorer. So Walsh is one of those guys who he has to play amazing footy on the field to score well in fantasy. So we saw that last game. He scored 2 tries, had a try assist, scored about 52 points. He's had seasons where he's averaged in the low 50s there, and he's been very effective. But those have been seasons where he scores a try a game, and he just pumps numbers. So I like Walsh at the price he's at. I think he's a tier below being a real keeper. That's my assessment of him. But at the price he's at, he's a better option than like Turbo or, a few of the, like Ponga plays Origin. The risk is, though, if the Maroons lose Origin or if Ponga gets hurt, there's a big chance that Walsh will play Origin game 3. And that would mean he's removed from round 18 considerations. So I guess to pre-answer, I would say if the Maroons lose and Ponga is not great in that game, I wouldn't buy Walsh. I think it's too risky. They might look ahead to the future, which is Walsh. But otherwise, if the Maroons win, then Walsh is a great option. So, yeah, the answer to that one is I think Walsh is very interesting. I just think it's a bit of a risk here. A few of you guys are asking about Walshy here too. 3 games on Sunday. I love the Sunday 3 games, by the way. I think it's so fun. Confidently score Haas this week. I think Haas will go well. I mean, let's see how he goes through Origin, but he's going to have to play in this game, I think. The Broncos want to win games. They're pretty desperate right now. They're a team that should be in the finals, and they need Haas to play to do that. So I'm starting Haas, but I'm running a loophole with either I'm going to have to pick one not to score. So Tarpanay will play first. I either take his score or I leave him out and I, take AFB, Haas. Like one of those 3 is going to have to not score. So I'm considering Haas. Would Karapani be a money buy? Yeah, for sure. So cheap as 297K, very affordable. There is no guarantee at all that Cobbo doesn't come back though. And Karapani's not a special fantasy scorer. So really, you're viewing Karapani as a bit of a cash out. It is a bit risky. It is a bit risky. But if Walsh were to make Origin, then Karapani would be bought more time in that regards too. So I think Karapani's a decent shout. Yeah, I would say if you really need the cheap wing fullback and it helps your trades this week, then get on Karapani. Not a bad shout. But don't be doing a sideways trade to get Karapani. Like Lawson the Karapani is kind of meh. I think you just keep Lawson as long as he gets named. Nos up the Bronx. Enthusiast, is Piakura built for Origin? Mick Ennis says so. Mick Ennis said that like 84 times in that Broncos game in round 14. He just kept saying, Piakura made for Origin. It's like, come on. Come on. I mean, look, I like Piakura. He's the mascot of the show. I want him to go well in fantasy, so no to Origin. Talakai, a good plug-in for the buys. Starting at center, not a bad shout here. Looking for a replacement for Garrick, who has the buy. So we'll have a look at this in buy, hold, sell in more depth. But if Iro's out for a while, and from memory, Hiroti is out for a decent chunk of time too. So Talakai could be a great shout. The issue is he doesn't play round 18, so that's the useless part. What's Talakai's price? Let me just grab that too. Because for Talakai, we're looking at, he was super cheap before. He's up to 295K. Not a bad shout. Not a bad shout at all. If he gets 4 weeks or more, good option. Good option there for sure. Then Tamale to Walsh. I like that trade. That's good. Love Pakes, not fantasy-wise. Definitely not fantasy-wise. Yeah. Talakai doesn't play at 18. If you were choosing between those two, I'd definitely go Garrick for sure. Yeah. Karapani a buy. Risky, but I like him. Then rolling down the list here, what else we got here questions-wise? Is McInnes so we'll talk about McInnes and the Sharks rotations in a sec. Ennis, the menace, just trying to set Queensland up. Yeah, look, Queensland don't need any setting up. The Blues dynasty, you guys. Any Queenslanders here? Are any of you guys tipping the Maroons this week? Like, are you thinking the Maroons get the win and send it to a decider? It would be cool to have that. Longy, can you do a deep dive into Karapani on buy, hold, sell? Yeah, for sure. I'll dig into him, Talakai, Last Refiner, all these guys. We'll talk about all of them because there's some pretty good cash outs this week to talk about. LKT to Walsh, only if you need wing fullback. If you don't need wing fullback, don't do it. But if you need wing fullback, then yeah, jump on. Best cash cow, that's what we'll do the deep dive on. So buy, hold, sell. If you guys haven't seen it, it's got a cheapies section. So we talk about top 5 cheapies of the week and the pros and cons of each one. And we'll definitely talk about all these boys. Then let's see, Queensland. Hell no. Queensland to win. Queensland to win, I'm hoping. Not a lot of confidence. Any Queensland? Oh, brutal. Brutal. Got a lot of Blues love. Queensland, but I'm saying we are not winning. I'm a Queenslander. It's going to be rough tomorrow. Guys, you got to back your boys. Got to get a bit delusional. Get a bit delusional, guys. So someone who supported Parramatta for a long time, I understand supporting a team that doesn't win that much. And you got to get delusional, guys. You got to delude yourselves. It's going to be a Cam Munster legacy game, and Tom Dearden's going to run all over everyone. Nanai is going to jump over Dylan Edwards and score a try. Like, it's get a bit delusional. It's more fun watching it that way. And you know, for the Blues, I'm thinking we clean sweep, but it's not my job to be delusional on your behalf. So get the delusion up, and then Ponga Masterclass. It's over. Yeah, that's the vibe, isn't it? All right, let's tear into. So we've gone through the Broncos there. Payne Haas, I think he's startable this week. I'd hold him for sure, unless he gets hurt in Origin, something like that. You know, other than that, if he's playing this week, you start him. He played 58 minutes on the back of Origin 1, which is great. PPM wasn't very good, but the minutes are fine. Then Piakura, I think he's a nice little cheapy option. I think Juzevski makes it risky, but if you want to jump on Piakura for the memes, you can. I think Biz is talking about doing it, but Biz is a bit deranged right now. Then for the Sharks, we got Kennedy, Katoa, Ramian, Talakai, Mulatalo in the back line, Trindle and Hines in the halves. We go through to Fanua Blake, Brayley, Kafusi, then Nakora, Wilson, and McInnes in the back row. Interchange is Atkinson, Colhoun, Rudolph, and Hamlin Uele. Now, for the Sharkies. Oh, I mean, Talakai we talked about. We'll go through him on buy, hold, sell as a cheapy option. Ramian is discounted. Kind of interesting if you're a head-to-head coach and you're a bit poor. You know, he's a nice little pod. Nico Hines, it's probably the big question here for the Sharks. Now, I'm on Hines myself. Yeah, I'm on Hines myself. I'm struggling with this one. I personally reckon we just sort of have to stick with him. I'm thinking we stick with him. Look, he's 600K. He's priced at a 46. You could move him on if you want to. I don't think he's that much worse than Jerome Hughes, though. Like, that's kind of my thing here. Like, I just think Cronulla will get it together at some point. They sort of have to get it together at some point, and they kind of did in that last game for a bit against the Dragons, though it doesn't really count. So I don't know. I'm just going to delusionally believe, and I know one of you said stop saying delusional, but I'm going to stick with Hines and just sort of hope for the bounce back. And in round 19, round 20, I'll think about selling him then. But for now, I'm just praying for the bounce back. Really, I think he still has it in him. And every game he makes a few runs, and you go, "Oh yeah, he's still got it," and he just doesn't do it for the rest of the game. So I think they need more from Nico Hines, and I think Cronulla, from a football sense, realize that they need more from Hines, and I think they're going to steer into that. So I'm backing the bounce back for Nico. But part of that is sunk cost fallacy where, we've lost a bunch of cash already. I just don't think he goes that far below where he is now. Like, he's already priced pretty cheap. So, let's stick with him. But if you do want to sell him, you can. Don't let me stop you. If you're too frustrated, you can move off him. I'm just going to hold. Vanilla Blake. Vanilla Blake's in a great spot. So, yeah, Rudolph back didn't really affect him. The big one is Hazleton. So we talked about this a bit before, but Vanilla Blake and Hazleton play a similar role in this forward pack, both very explosive attacking front rowers. With Hazleton out, we've seen a big boost to Fanil Blake's minutes, and they need him playing big minutes, and he's playing a lot more minutes than McInnes as well. So if you're a head-to-head coach, I think he's still a pretty good buy. If you're an overall coach, unless you're stacked for round 18, I probably wouldn't jump onto him. But I do think he's in great form, and the minutes are awesome. Like, that's the big thing here, the minutes. So I jumped on Fanil Blake a while ago. I wasn't super happy with it at the start, but it's really come together down the stretch here. And the bet was that he would go well through the origin period, and Cronulla would be effective. I was right about half of that. Fanil Blake's gone well. Cronulla have not been effective, but hey, you win some, you lose some. Then Blake Brayley, I mean, he scored 90 points last week. You could talk about him. The attacking game really came out. That was the thing. And he hasn't really been an attacking hooker for a long time. So if he keeps that going, he might be the top hooker in fantasy because the defensive work rate is fantastic. But I'd need to see it again to make the bet on Brayley. Nakora, I think it's too late to jump on Nakora, but he did show that he can do it. McInnes, I wouldn't jump on McInnes. I wouldn't sell McInnes either. I think he's just a guy to hold on to at this stage, unless you're moving to someone awesome. But I don't think you necessarily need to move McInnes on. And then bench here, Colhoun, I will say, nice little cash out. Pumped out, I think it was a 37 last week. So if you used him, you're not too upset about that score. Any Sharks questions here? AFB, a bad captain. Thinking about it. Against the Broncos are a pretty good middle forward rotation. So I wouldn't expect a lot of cheap points here. You could make the case that he'll play a bunch of minutes potentially, but I personally wouldn't do it on AFB. There's a chance that he pops off. I hope he pops off, but I just don't think he's got that big attacking upside against the Broncos, who are a pretty good forward rotation. NRL Nas, Nico's got to retire before he embarrasses himself. Brutal, mate. Brutal. I think he's got it in him, mate. He's got it in him. Nico's going to bounce back. I'm a believer. He's got all the talent. Just not playing that well right now. Fogs to Campbell. You're trading a player who plays round 18 for a player who doesn't. So I'm going to say no to that. And let's see anything else here. Captain AFB. Yeah, I think it's really risky. I wouldn't do it myself. Time Machine. One trade only. Would you go Katoa over Hines? Ooh. Maybe. I mean, I think I have some better ones that I've stuffed up. I went Isaiah Yeo over Toby Couchman earlier in the year, and should have gone the Couch. I remember I talked everyone else into buying Couchman and then didn't do it myself. It's a problem when you're on the podcast, you talk about these trades, then you get to the end of the week and you make your own trades. You end up doing silly stuff. But yeah, Katoa over Hines would be a banger too. I'm a Katoa fan as well. That's the worst part. Like, big fan of him. I might move him to quarter. Yeah, potentially. Then any other questions on the Sharks here? Hold Nakora. Yeah, I'd hold Nakora. Captain AFB, I think it's too risky. Let's keep tearing through these teams here. Let's roll through. What have we got? We got a 4 p.m. game, Roosters Cowboys. Then we've got a 6 p.m. Eels Titans. That'll be a clash of the best. So 2 more games, and I'll go through a few trade questions as well. For the Roosters and the Cowboys, both these teams play round 18. So they are both extremely interesting. Cowboys especially do not have any buys until round 27. So they're a cracking option. Roosters have a buy next week. So just be aware of that. If you have too many Roosters players, you will be stuffed next week. Now, for the Chooks, Jimmy Tedesco, super stud. I like him a lot. If you want Tedesco, go buy Tedesco. Boom. Boom. Easy. Simple. We know who Teddy is. We've seen it for years. He is that guy. Now, I was hoping he would get that try assist for Keddy, but a bit of wishful thinking there. But I think he should have a big game here. I do not think the Cowboys are going to roll over in this game. Like they're not going to be like they were last week. They were missing a lot of troops. They've got all their Origin players back, plus Vilea, plus Bateman. They will be much better this week. I still think Tedesco is a great option. Backline here: Dan Tupou, Billy Smith. We've got Toya and Nwangani Tuase. Then the halves: Sandon Smith, Hugo Savala. Forward pack here: Collins, Watson, White. Then Crichton, Wong, and Fiketti at lock. Very interesting news. Iolu in the 14 jersey, Docker Clay in 15, Steep, and then Lenu. Really weird bench for the Roosters. What's on the extended bench here? Be my follow-up question. Okay, yeah, Townsend could come back at some point. Makatoa, King, yeah, not too much, not too much. Okay, so they'll probably line up like this. In that case, I would say you could be a bit more confident in Nafahu White, for example. If you're starting him, he should play pretty good minutes in this game. Yeah, Saul Wong, rock solid, leave him in. Fiketti, I like Fiketti, but like just he's not a consistent PPM guy. He's a freak talent. Really nice try he scored last week. I just don't love him for fantasy myself. Blake Steep is the one who got away, actually. If we're talking about time machines, I did DM a few people. I could find the screenshots early in the season, just said, Blake Steep, PPM machine. He'll be great through Origin. I thought about getting him, and he had an opportunity. It was around round 4, I think it was, where he started sort of playing some minutes. I thought, I get him now, but I just felt like the gap was too big between then and Origin, and there was the chance that he'd go back to low minutes, then come back up through Origin, and the Roosters just kept having injuries. So Steep is one that I was a believer in and just didn't pull the trigger on. That's one I would go back in time for. In fact, we should probably do a post-season review of these. There's so many mistakes we can go back and look at. But the rest of the team here, I mean, if you're holding Roosters players, you just stick with them. Like, unless you've got 4 Roosters in your team, you might need to sell one. But other than that, guys like Nwani Tuase, stick with him, ride the wave. Sandon Smith, I think you can sell him unless you need him for round 18. Hugo Savala, still making cash, still scoring well. 45 tackles last week is ridiculous. But yeah, keep him in your team for sure, just in case. And then for the forward pack here, Nafahu White, if you got him, you hold him. He's not really a guy I'd target as a buy because I don't think he's a keeper, but he's a hold for sure. Saw Wong, doing well. Keep him in your team. Fiketti, if you want a cheap option. Iolu, I like as well. So he will play, 43 minutes, 43 points last week. He's a nice PPM guy at hooker and should be a good option down the stretch of the buy rounds. I mean, by the way, he'll then sort of go into irrelevance after that. But outside of that, yeah, Chooks, it's mainly Tedesco that I'm recommending targeting. Gus Crichton is going to be in the 500s. So he's going to be really cheap in about round 19, round 20. Gus Crichton is a pod I'll be looking at after Origin. So just keep a few trades in the back pocket for these fun little pods down the stretch. Then Cowboys, we got Drinkwater, Derby, Labut, Vilea, Talangi, Purdue, Dearden. Then forward pack here is McLean, Robson, Hess, Bateman, Nanai, Cotter. Interchange is Edwards, McIntyre, Neem, and McHaley. So Cowboys get Drinkwater back because he didn't play last week. No, he did play, but rough game for him. You have a few. By the way, not critiquing Drinkwater. You have a few of those games. He's a very attacking player, so when it doesn't go right, it just sort of falls over a bit. Then they get Vilea back as well. They've got Tommy Dearden back. I think he's a real leader for this team. You get Reece Robson back. You get John Bateman back. Jeremiah Nanai back. Ruben Cotter back. It's a lot of guys they were missing last week, so I think they will bounce back this week. But they really are in a bit of a downward spiral right now. So for them, I would say if you're a Scott Drinkwater owner, you're not selling Scott Drinkwater. It's a bad game. He's dropped a bunch of cash. You're just sticking with him at this stage. If you're a non-Drinkwater owner, you are probably waiting for next week. So they have the Titans next week. They play round 18. I think is it South Sydney round 18 they play? No, that might be the Storm. Anyway, I think they've got some reasonable matchups. So for Scotty Drinkwater, I like him as a target next week. And personally, I'm planning to buy Drinkwater for 550K next week. I still believe in his talent, but he is, a bit up and down, right? His fantasy scoring, it's not Tedesco. Like he's not that 250 meters, 5 to 10 tackle breaks kind of guy. He's more, try assists and those creative plays and all that sort of things. Goal kicking too. So I like Drinkwater next week for 550K. I think he's going to be one of the buys of the round next week. Now, rest of this back line here, Purdue, he's in my side. I'm keeping him for round 18. Round 18 centers suck. They are brutal. And Purdue, he's a guy with tons of talent. He can flash it whenever he wants. He's a loopholer for me this week. So I'll just have him, and I think it's Lucas plays first. So if Lucas goes poorly, which never happens, Purdue will be starting in my team, but otherwise probably on my bench. For the forward pack here, a lot of origin players. So basically we're targeting no one in this Cowboys side. If you were desperate, like really desperate, you can look at Cohen Hess. I mentioned him last week, but yeah, not too much to talk about here. So let's quickly touch on a few of these. Teddy captain could do this. I mean, Teddy has those big games in him. I personally don't love captaining Tedesco because every now and then he has those games where the Roosters play really well and he kind of facilitates a bit more and doesn't score that well even when they win. So that's a risk with Tedesco. Oh my God, the lighting. But Teddy is a risky one. And to be honest, that light turning off, guys, that's a sign that you shouldn't be captaining Tedesco. The light indicates it. Outside of this, don't buy Drinky against the Bondi Wall. Big break even this week. So we're not buying Drinky right now. So you're definitely not. Isaiah asked, sorry for the late question. Just started watching. Is Tarpanay or Horse a buy? Need a third mid for round 18, and Colo is out. Colo Matangi might be back this week. So maybe keep Colo Matangi. Just wait for the news. But I like Tarpanay. I don't like Horsburgh. I think Horsburgh's a big chance of making Origin if Queensland lose. Drinky a buy still? Or wait 1 week and buy Drinkwater next week. My mistake was getting Finafuaki when Egan was right there. Oh, yeah. But we'll have to do like maybe later in the year, we'll do an episode like a live and we'll just go, what was everyone's biggest mistake of the year? Or maybe even I could do like a form or something like that. Just send you guys a link and everyone can fill in, their best trade of the year, their worst trade of the year, biggest mistake, biggest regret. And then we make a video and like go through all the biggest biggest mistakes and all that kind of thing. That could be fun. Question: Teddy goes lights out. Yeah. Everyone link stream. Yeah, guys, drop a like on the stream as well if you like this too. Just drop a like in there. Really helps sort of boost things up. I have a question. When will Will Warbrick wake up from his concussion? Yeah, he's been out for ages. Hopefully soon. Trading Metcalf round 1. That one hurt all of us, man. And my team, Machine Hindsight, was keeping Ponga for so long. Biggest mistake, downloading the app. That'd be fun. All right, cool. I'll put that together soon because that'd be fun to have. We could do that as like a special episode, maybe during like round 18 when it's a bit quieter. You do it then or some other time towards the end. I try to do these things while the season's still going there because I feel like once round 27 clicks and we get into finals, everyone's off fantasy. So everything goes really quiet then. So I'll try and do it sort of later in the year. Let's keep running through. Last game of the round and then some trade questions. So Parramatta and the Titans, two premier teams here. Two teams that I love. I'll be at this game, most likely. I'm planning to go to this game. So, yeah, hoping for a big Parramatta win, but we're missing a few players in this one. Hopefully a bit of a glimpse into the future. Now, Parramatta, Yongi at fullback. We got Lomax, Penasini, Russell, Addo-Carr in the back line. Josh Papali'i, Dean Hawkins in the halves. Then the forward pack here is Williams, Riley Smith, Barlow in the front row. And then we got Tuolangi, Kautonga, and Hopgood at lock. Interchange, Walker, Dury, Greg, Samrani. So unless Hopgood plays lock, it could be a Riley Smith 80 minutes game. He is going to be in my starting side 100% this week. If he goes back to 80 minutes, I actually think he has like 55 average potential. He's been pumping out some big numbers in like 65 minutes recently. So I'm excited about him. For the back line for Parramatta, Will Penasini's really cheap. If you're desperate and you're a head-to-head coach, I don't mind that shout. Josh Papali'i, you could make the case that you jump on Josh. Now, it's tough with Parramatta because they're losing Dylan Brown end of the year. So they're trying to figure out what they're doing with the 6 jersey a bit. Hawkins is the reserve grade half. And in reserve grade, it's Hawkins and Volkman who play in the halves. Josh Papali'i normally plays fullback. So my concern here is Josh, I think he's a little bit further away in terms of his development than Hawkins is. So Hawkins is 26. Josh, I think he's 20. And Josh is traditionally a fullback. So I'm worried that next week Dylan Brown comes back from 1 week suspension, even though Moses is out for 6 weeks. And I think it'll be Brown next to Hawkins. That's my concern there. So if you did cash out to Josh Papali'i, you might not get as much time as you're hoping for. I'll let you know if that changes, that news changes. I'm on a para podcast too, so I can ask the boys. I'm actually interviewing the CEO of the Eels tonight with a few of the other guys on Talking Para. So if you are Para fans, jump on Talking Para. We're interviewing Jim, the CEO there, which is pretty sweet. But for Josh Papali'i, could be an option. It's hard. It's hard because it might just be 1 week rental there. So tough one to invest in. Then forward pack here, Williams has been flying. If you're a head-to-head coach, I don't hate Williams there at all. Kalma, Kautonga, Hobgood. Like again, you're not really jumping onto many of these guys here. So we'll go to the Titans next. And I'll do some questions. But Brimson at fullback, Campera, Feeder, Sami, and Fitzgibbon in the back line there. Fitzgibbon had a nice game last week, by the way. Bit of critique he's got recently, but he was good last week. Then Forward and Campbell in the halves. Forward pack here, Jolliffe keeps the starting spot there with Verrills and Campbell Gillard. Then Randall, Firma, Haas in the back row. And we have Alec Bianchi, Pamasali, Isaac Antino, both, and then Fodder Waker on the bench. So very strong bench for the Titans. Dave Fafita, jersey 18. And I'm just going to say too, Tukey Simpkins. I thought he was great last week. I thought he was fantastic last week. I'm kind of surprised that he's not getting a shot on the bench. To be honest, I thought he was really impactful. So there's a few things that could happen here, right, with the Titans. So out like just a random point about a Rezzy's guy, but Fafita comes back in. If Fafita comes back in, it will be for Chris Randall. If Chris Randall is moved from the edge back row spot, he either goes to lock or the bench. So lock or bench could push Cleese Haas out of the team. Basically, all of this for me to say, don't buy Chris Randall, don't buy Cleese Haas. These types of players, just dodgy job security. Jolliffe and Campbell Gillard had big games last week. That was because the Origin players were out. They are off the radar, irrelevant as well. So basically for the Titans, there's a few things to look at here. Does Dave Fafita come back? Does he start? Is he effective? They're the big questions, right? Because Dave Fafita could be a nice, cheap pod at some point. No rush to get him, though. Doesn't play round 18. Break even's not crazy low. Yeah, just wait and see with Dave Fafita, but watch very closely because I'm going to jump on him. If he becomes available and plays a big role here, I'm getting Dave Fafita. Now, rest of the team here, Big Tino, we reduced minutes in this one. He's dealing with a sternum issue. So if you're a Tino owner and you still own Tino, I'd probably sell Tino at this stage. I think he's a sell. Sam Verrills, he's back. No more major buy rounds, so no guy you're targeting. So really it's about AJ Brimson is a hold if you have him. Stick with him. Parramatta's a good matchup here. And Fitzgibbon, if you're desperate for like a 230K cash out, I'm actually not against Fitzgibbon. My concern here is Brian Kelly on the extended bench and Sami or Fafita, they could go to the wing potentially. That could happen. There's a bit of a risk of that. So Fitzgibbon might be a late out and they play last game of the round. So probably not one I'm advising, but if you're desperate, you're desperate. Then Jaden Campbell, great option. Parramatta's a good matchup. Big part of the reason I bought Campbell last week actually was because of this matchup and because I've got a couple of Manly players and Sharp in doubt. So I needed the wing fullback spot covered. So Campbell should be good in this game. Could be a captain option too. Probably a few of you asked that. In fact, I'll just jump through to some questions here and we'll see if anyone's asked about that. Yeah, Joe Ash is cool. Yeah, I think he's a good player. I like him. He seems to be really positive. Like he's played at hooker, played on the wing. He's just playing everywhere at Parramatta. He's a guy who gets a lot of hype around the club too. So hopefully he's the guy. Then maybe around 24, 25, yeah, we could do those late season videos then. Is Brim job season? Yeah, he could absolutely kill it here. I'll give it to you straight, Longy. Titans 13 plus. I mean, I laughed last week when people said Titans 13 plus and they belted Manly. So, I can't laugh this time. Longy a sell is, Yongy. Yeah, poor Yongy. Then let's keep rolling through. Drinky and Yongy, not a bad loophole. Don't mind that. When does Purdue get half? It'll be around 21 when Purdue gets half, so a long time away. Easy fix for Paris to throw money. I do like Sandon Smith. I think he's a good option as well. 22 years old too, so Sandon's a young guy, still developing. Josh going to carve up. Josh, man of the match, mate, beastly. And Campbell, sneaky captain here. So Siggy, from memory, you're doing pretty well too, Siggy, and the rankings there. So this could be a big one for you. I don't mind it. I don't mind Campbell as a pod captain. I think he is pretty much guaranteed to get 50 in this game. And then you maybe add some extra plays here. Parramatta missing both their starting halves. I'm not against Campbell captain at all. I think that could be a good shout. Kelly dropped here. Captain Campbell last week. Good shout there. You smashed it there. And if McInnes is a hold, got him for 15. Now I don't need him. Look, you could sell him if you want to. I'm not desperate though. I think you keep him. Is Fletcher Sharp to Campbell, two sideways? I think it's a pretty bad trade, actually. So I would look for another trade instead. Fletcher Sharp's a guy I'm going to try and keep for the rest of the year. And I just think the fact that the Knights have added so much strike here, Dom Young, Bradman Best, is a big boost for Fletcher Sharp. He should be really good. Latu Fino, is he still an option? Yeah. Yeah, he's still an option there. He will definitely start in the halves in round 18 because Luai is going to be up for Origin. Not definitely, like 80%. So he'll be good for you then. He's playing pretty well off the bench as well, pretty effective in that role. So I think he's going to be the half sooner rather than later. He might even get the starting spot this week, to be honest. They might make a late swap. We'll know before the game, but I would target, if you need a cash out, I think he's a great option. Hosking to Hughes, only if you are covered in the forward pack for round 18 would you make a trade like this. I'll hit a few more questions here, and then get ready for buy, hold, sell. Drinky and White. So shoot through those questions, guys. Drinky and White to Campbell and a cash out. Drinky and White both play round 18. So I'm going to say no. You want to keep those guys. Bit of patience there. Trade some other guys instead. Purdue to Herbie. As much as I love Purdue for round 18, if this is a trade you can make, then pull the trigger. Push Lucas to edge and trade Colo for Herbie. I like this trade if Koloamatangi's out long term. Guys, really want to hammer this point. Koloamatangi might be sweet. So the news I've heard during this stream, got to confirm it and all that, right? So buy, hold, sell. I'll talk about Koloamatangi first thing. But the news I've heard is that Koloamatangi is day-to-day, basically. Doesn't need surgery on that fracture. So should be sweet to return relatively soon, which means Koloamatangi is a hold at this stage. Hubnut to Duncan, still worth it. Really concerned with Hub's minutes. If Koloamatangi's out for a while, Hub does a keep. If Koloamatangi's back, then you could sell Hub. I think Duncan is an upgrade. So yeah, I like this trade. Drinky to Teddy. If you really don't believe in Drinkwater, you can. I personally think Drinkwater is a hold, guys. I think you hold Drinkwater. Last week was an abnormality. I have a lot of players out, but I'm versus a not so good team in head-to-head. Save trades. Yeah, if you think you can win the game without trading, then do it. You don't need to run up points for and against. No need to do that. Would you go Tongia to Jed for some cash, or go to Walsh? Probably Walsh, I would say. Jed's a bit of a dead spot, I think, unless we see something otherwise. Garrick hold? Yes, definitely hold Garrick. Talakai or Karapani? I'll talk about that. Buy, hold, sell cheapies. I'll go through all the details with those guys because I need to do some research on that one. Then I have a lot of players out, but I'm versus, I talked about that one already. Teddy to drink? Probably not. Absolute must-haves? There aren't really any this week. So normally there is no must-have. Most weeks there is no must-have. I would say the best buy this week is probably Jerome Hughes, but I might not get him myself because I don't really need a half right now. So unless Munster is out injured or something like that, you know what I mean? Like I'll ponder it. Probably Hughes though, but there really is no must-have this week. What's a good number of trades to have after this week? Or it depends how set your team is. I would say you really want to have at least 5, probably more like 6 or 7, maybe 8. You know, you don't need loads, but ideally it's probably like 8 to 10. But even 5 or more is a pass mark. Under 5 is dire. Under 5 is you're in a tough spot. Just a little poke of the eye. Yeah, he's all good. Go Koloamatangi. Thoughts on Tavanga to Hughes? Not against it as long as you can cover hooker in round 18. Could you see Humphreys averaging 50? Nah. Only good when Latrell is out, and Latrell's looking like he's going to back up this week. Drinky to Hughes if he's my only way to get to Hughes? Probably not. Yeah, Fantasy Scout shed it too. Keon day to day. That's the news. If Koloamatangi doesn't come back, I'm going to have to start Paddy and shift Clark to mids. That's pretty dire, man. If Koloamatangi's, you might need to make another trade, like a separate trade there instead. Sandon or Savala in draft. Savala has better job security. Yeah, Koloamatangi day to day. Cool. 6 to 7 trades. How many trades do I have right now? 11 for you. Yeah, nice. Awesome. You're in a good spot. If Koloamatangi doesn't play, if Koloamatangi is only out for a small period of time, by the way, I'm strongly considering just not trading this week. I may not trade this week. I probably don't really need to trade this week, actually, if Koloamatangi is good to go. So that's interesting. It puts me in an interesting spot. I probably won't trade. So that's me to finish up, guys. Last thing to note here, a couple of things, actually. Koloamatangi, day-to-day, avoided surgery, 1 to 2 weeks. back for round 18 is great news. Keep Kolomatangi. Keep him. I'll put this in buy, hold, sell as well, but keep him. The other thing, bit of a heads up, guys. We are bringing some like sponsors and paid partnerships into the channel as well. So there's going to be a few more sponsors and that kind of thing coming up on a few of the videos. So if you're watching buy, hold, sell, if you're watching, other videos there too, there are a few of those promotions in there. If it's anything that you are interested in, definitely chuck a click on the link and that kind of thing, and just have a look at these things. I'm vetting them pretty well and having a look at, things that are relevant for us. So a lot of, fantasy sports, NRL focused stuff, all that kind of thing. So yeah, a bunch of that's coming through. What it does is it allows me to spend more time on this content and, really smash it out and put more time into the production side as well. So there are some things I'm working on in the background that are going to be very, very sexy for our streams and edits and that kind of thing. They'll be coming through, and the sponsors are how we can, get that sort of thing going. So just mentioning that, giving you guys the heads up so it's not like a big surprise, when that sort of comes up. Because I know a lot of you guys, if you're here, at the hour 30 mark, you're probably one of the hardcore fantasy players. So when you do see it, don't be too shocked. And if you have any feedback on any of the sponsors too, just shoot me a DM on Instagram. If there's any that you think, oh, we should do this or we should target that, or, any that you don't like or anything like that, always happy to hear it. Now, last question, Herbie Captain. Oh, yeah, I don't mind it. Look, Terrell May is the captain, guys. Terrell May is the captain this week. But if you want to go potty, I don't mind Herbie at all. All right, I got to jump, guys. I'm going to do buy, hold, sell tonight. That'll come up at 7 a.m. tomorrow, buy, hold, sell. Also, Origin Fantasy. I'll do a video on that too. There's going to be another Origin Fantasy game. They'll be giving away a bunch of jerseys. They fixed the bugs from last time. But Origin Fantasy video will come out tomorrow too. Cheers, guys. Love your work. Make those trades, but Kolomatangi, probably a keep this week. I'll confirm that buy, hold, sell. See you, everyone. Have a good one.